Before we get on to the video, do me a favor and hit the like button, it greatly helps out the channel. Also, while you're down there, subscribe for more. Now back to the video. Sending executives as leaders for dungeon raids is the norm. But despite that, Choi is sending Lee, a regular soldier, as the raid leader. Lee guessed that this is probably because of Choi's rivalry with the Blue Flower Guild master, Yu Huk. Lee knows that if he is successful with the raid, then it would be a victory for the common soldiers of the AMT against the elite hunters of the Blue Flower Guild. But even if he fails, it won't necessarily fall on the AMT, since they only participated in the raid as a backup for the Blue Flower Guild. Another perk of sending Lee is if he succeeds, it would put the claims of the AMT being useless to sleep, and the AMT would also win in the war of nerves it is currently waging against the Blue Flower Guild. With a smile, Choi expressed that it's great to hear that Lee would challenge the raid, and he told Lee that he would hand the Failnuet over right away. As Choi said this, Lee continued to think, and no matter the outcome, it was a win-win situation for Choi. Seeing Lee's silence, Choi continued on, saying that since Lee will be busy with the raid, he would proceed with his promotion to sergeant after the raid. Hearing this agitated Lee, he realized that this old chameleon was scamming him, and he didn't like being taken advantage of. With a smile, Lee spoke, referring to Choi as Brigadier General, and he expressed that the Failnaught should only count for the reward he was promised last time. And if he succeeds at the raid this time, he asks for an additional reward. Choi was taken aback. He had forgotten how brazen Lee can be. To avoid answering Lee's question, Choi acted quickly. He stated, with a serious expression on his face, that as long as Lee succeeds at the raid, he promises to hear him out. Lee brought his arms to his side, he projected his voice, and he thanked Choi. He also added that he will make sure to succeed at the raid at all costs. Sometime later, Lee returned to the C-rank training grounds, and when he opened the door to free his comrades, he was met with the sight of them standing over the corpse of a monster. Because of the light coming from the outside, Lee's comrades turned their attention to the door. Private Minty turned to the door, questioning why Lee was coming back now. Private Minty turned with a smile, and he expressed to Lee that he is a bit late. Junmo also faced the exit, and with an excited look on his face, he told Lee that the C-rank training grounds are no big deal, and he expressed that they are now confident they could do any mission. But as he said this, Junmo stopped talking because he noticed a devilish grin on Lee's face. Lee started chuckling and he ordered all of them to armor up. This confused his comrades, they all froze, and they stared at him with a puzzling expression. So Lee called them to attention, and in a serious tone he explained that they will be going on their first ever solo deployment. Hearing the words solo deployment sent shivers down Junmo's spine, and he expressed to Lee that they never wished for something like this. 2 days later, as Lee's platoon was heading to the raid gate, Lee showed them a magazine filled with bullets, and he explained that since this is a zombie dungeon, they are going to use bullets infused with holy power, but these bullets have more recoil than normal bullets, so he warned them to be careful when firing. Lee also told them that this is no longer a drill, and he ordered everyone to stay alert. Afterwards, they all went silent as they prepared themselves for their first solo mission. To break the silence, Junmo asked Lee if he brought Failnaught with him. Lee looked up at Junmo, and with a smile, he told him not to worry. Then he pulled back his sleeves slightly, revealing the tip of Failnaught. Sometime later, Lee's platoon arrived at the Silumdong Red Gate Blue Flower Guild base camp, and they were met with a man in soldier uniform, and he ordered Lee's platoon to get out of the truck. Lee was first to step out of the truck, and as his comrades were busy offloading their stuff from the truck, Lee discussed with the man that had ordered them to get out. This person informed Lee that before his platoon can enter, he has to join the operation meeting, and he asked Lee to follow him to the meeting. Lee replied with a yes sir, and before leaving he turned to Junmo, and he placed him in charge of handling everyone here. Junmo expressed that he understood. As this went on, Private Minty noticed the tension in the air. He called Private on Minty, and he turned his attention to the members of the Blue Flower Guild who were glaring at them on the opposite end, expressing that they don't look happy to see the support squad. One of the members of the Blue Flower Guild raid team approached his team leader, who had knelt closely observing the support squad, questioning if he heard the news. This person crossed his arms, and he told his team leader that the AMT sent their support squad, filled with regular soldiers. And from what he knows, the members of the support squad are considered the lowest of the low at the AMT. This made this person question if they weren't fighting with too much of a burden right now. With an irritable look, this person expressed that what's worst is the support squad might find out about Operation Retrieval. Lee overheard this, and as this person said this, the team leader for the Blue Flower Guild interrupted, telling this person to watch his mouth in a serious tone. This person quickly covered his mouth and he started apologizing. Lee was intrigued. He glanced in the direction of the Blue Flower Guild members, wondering what Operation Retrieval means. After Lee was a distance away, the team leader of the Blue Flower Guild raid team explained to his comrades that as soon as they entered the gate, they would ditch the AMT support squad and operate on their own. the one who almost exposed their mission, stated that if they do that then the support squad won't make it out alive. The team leader stood up, and he expressed that everyone's life is on the line during the raid, so it wouldn't matter. He glared over at Lee, expressing that since the support squad was sent by the AMT, they have to protect their own lives because in the gate they won't have a choice but look out for their own. Lee entered the meeting room, and to his surprise, Catherine was the only one present. Lee glared at her with an annoyed look on his face, questioning if there wasn't an operations meeting. Catherine remained silent, and she started approaching Lee from the other end of the room. And after getting closer, she held her hips, exclaiming that she had a feeling the AMT would send Lee. In an irritated tone, she expressed that one time Lee had no problem hiding the fact that he was an F ranker, and he even took her business card. Lee was taken aback. He guessed that Catherine was bothered because she couldn't recognize that he is an F ranker, so he reminded her that he never asked for her business card. Catherine sighed, and she expressed that that is enough talking about the past. Then she told Lee that for this raid, his platoon is just a sidekick for the Blue Flower Guild raid squad. So when they entered the gate, she warned Lee not to do anything that would get in the way of the Blue Flower Guild. She expressed that it would be best if they just stayed in a corner. After saying this, she dismissed him, expressing that she called him here just to tell him that. This agitated Lee. He was finally able to piece together why the Blue Flower Guild agreed to the support of regular soldiers, but he wouldn't be used as a pawn in their game, and if they think he was just going to bow his head and just listen, then they have forgotten who he is. He reminded Catherine that his platoon has the same rights the Blue Flower Guild has to raid this gate. With a smug smile, Catherine questioned how that would change anything. She asked Lee if his platoon would be able to take on a boss monster. Catherine also added that she knows Lee has skill and guts for an F ranker, but as she was about to explain why it can't be possible for Lee's platoon to raid a boss, Lee interjected. He glared at Catherine, and with an irritable look on his face, he questioned why his platoon wouldn't be able to take on the boss. He asked if Catherine was worried that his platoon might be able to win the raid. Catherine was amused. She couldn't contain it, and she burst out laughing hysterically. After getting her bearings, Catherine wiped the tear in her eye from laughing, and she apologized to Lee. Then she asked him if he thinks he will get lucky like he did at Seoul Station again. Lee took 3 steps, and after getting in Catherine's face, he confidently stated that what happened at Seoul Station wasn't luck. In an irritated tone, Catherine remarked that it seems Lee really has a death wish for stepping up to her like that. After calming herself, a thought came to mind, and she mockingly remarked that Lee's platoon should enter before the Blue Flower Guild raid squad does. However, she quickly refuted the idea, and as she walked away from Lee, she expressed that 3 of this year's top 100 prospects are going in for this raid. So Lee shouldn't be a bother, and he should stay out of the way of the Blue Flower Guild. Lee was in shock. He purposefully provoked her to get a reaction. But the great Catherine isn't responding to his provocation. He recalled the retrieval operation he heard about earlier. This confirmed it. There was something about this raid that the Blue Flower Guild was trying to keep secret. Lee called out to Catherine as she was heading for the door. Catherine turned her head towards Lee, and Lee asked her in an agitated tone if she would like to make a bet with him. Lee stated that if his platoon is able to defeat the boss monster before the Blue Flower Guild, then he wanted Catherine to give him something. Catherine chuckled, and she questioned if Lee really believes he would be able to catch the boss monster before the elite members of the Blue Flower Guild. Catherine grinned, and she told Lee that he doesn't have any idea what it means to make a bet with someone like her. She expressed that if the Blue Flower Guild defeats the boss monster first, then Lee will have to give his life to her. She added that this is the only way she would agree to the bet. Lee looked down at her, and with a smug grin, he expressed that he is fine with that. Lee didn't know what Catherine and the Blue Flower Guild was hiding, but if there is something hidden inside this gate, then he is going to take it with him. Sometime later, the raid squad for the Blue Flower Guild got into formation with Lee's platoon close behind, and as they entered, the team leader announced that his team would be going in first, and he ordered them to get ready. Then the team leader ordered the tanks, who were in front, to have their shields up, and as they entered, he secretly informed his comrades to be ready to run, since the plan was to leave the entry zone before the AMT soldiers could catch up with them. With this, all of the members of the Blue Flower Guild raid team entered, and Lee announced to his platoon that they will enter in 3 minutes, so for the time being they were on standby. Lee used this time to check up on his comrades. He patted On Minty on the head, and he asked him if he was feeling nervous. On Minty expressed that he was fine, and 3 minutes later, the support squad approached the gate. Before they entered, Lee lifted his hand in the air, bringing his platoon to a halt, and told them to remain focused. He expressed that they will be fine if they just do as they did during the drills, and he warned everyone to watch their breath. With this out of the way, it was time for them to head in, and as the tank of the platoon, Private On Minty was in the front with his shield up. As he walked through the gate with his comrades close behind, Lee closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he was met with the scene of the team leader of the Blue Flower Guild ripping his team members apart. Junmo almost let out a terrified scream after witnessing this scene. However, Lee covered his mouth and he told him to keep quiet. The scene escalated, with each death on the Blue Flower Guild's side, adding to the number of enemies the remaining Blue Flower Guild members had to face. The member from earlier, who almost revealed the retrieval operation, pointed his blade at his team leader and he called out to him. The team leader, who had become a zombie, turned his attention to this person. This person froze due to terror and the team leader went on to devour him. While the Blue Flower Guild was being ripped apart, Lee lifted his hand in the air, creating a fist. Then he gave his comrades a signal. With this, Lee's platoon quietly moved past the zombified Blue Flower Guild members. A short while later, Lee's platoon arrived at a graveyard, and they were greeted by a giant lynch-like monster. This monster quickly noticed Lee's platoon, and it glared at them while making groans like a zombie. A prompt appeared above the monster's head, stating that the boss monster Zombie King has appeared. The Zombie King revealed its multiple arms, and he reached forth to grab Lee and his platoon. Lee looked up at the Zombie King's hand with an agitated look. Junmo looked up as well, but he started screaming in terror. As the monster's hand got closer, Lee pointed his gun at the Zombie King, and as he opened fire, he ordered the others to take aim and open fire as well. They opened fire on the Zombie King, however none of their bullets were getting through. Lee quickly noticed that there was a barrier stopping their bullets from making contact. He gritted his teeth in annoyance, and he called out to Taeyong, expressing that he should do it now. Taeyong stopped firing, and he took aim, and he settled the scope of his sniper rifle on the ear of the Zombie King. Before Taeyong fired, he started recalling their drill training for this raid. A day ago, during one of their drill training, Taeyong interrupted. He lifted his hands, expressing that he had a question, and Lee gave him permission to ask. Taeyong expressed that it's common knowledge that modern firearms can't do much damage to monsters. This made him question if their current drill training would actually prepare them for the raid when they don't have the destructive power of high-level hunters. Lee told Taeyong that he is correct, they wouldn't be able to deal critical damage. This confused Taeyong and the others. Lee told them to calm down. He explained that even if they were to use holy bullets in their rifles, to Dungeon's executive-level monster, they'd be nothing more than rubber bullets at best. However, he expressed that the reason he planned for them to use a rifle for this assault is because of the noise. This further perplexed them, and they questioned how noise would help them in the raid. Lee informed them that generally speaking zombies have degenerated senses, but he pointed at his ear, saying the zombie's hearing isn't degenerated in the slightest. In fact, it's probably better than most hunters. So while firearms can't kill them, they can use the noise to disorient the zombies. The others were amazed, and they were left speechless. Lee added that once they disorient the zombies, then they won't be able to perceive them. Taeyong interjected, and he questioned what would happen if the zombies in this dungeon have other senses that are working as well. Lee expressed that if that's the case, then their chances of succeeding the raid are slim, and most of the squad would become zombies. With an irritable look on his face, Lee added that all hell will break loose as the squad members kill each other. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button.